Hello everyone, I'm Xiuzhong Gu. It's my honor to present our research. Learning history through roleplay, identity reconstruction in a narrative-based educational RPG. This study examines how immersive gaming can reshape a learner's sense of history. Moving to the introduction and objectives of our study. This research explores how historically themed role-playing games can promote learning and identity development. Grounded in the theory of projection reflection and the PCARD instructional design model, we designed an orange light RPG centered on the long march of the Chinese Red Army. The game invites players to experience historical dilemmas through embodied decision-making, aiming to deepen historical understanding while fostering personal reflection and identity transformation. Specifically, our study aims to explore how digital storytelling can reshape identity, examine effective engagement with historical characters, and investigate the reflective learning process triggered by gameplay. First, the projective reflection theory, introduced by Foster. This theory posits that learners construct and reflect on their identities by projecting themselves into virtual roles. Through engaging with meaningful narrative dilemmas, learners can reshape their sense of self via emotional and cognitive alignment with their characters. Second, we utilize the PCARD instructional design model introduced by Zheng. This model identifies four core elements: problem, context, role, and decision, making as the keys to effective learning. It provides the practical framework we used to design a game environment that supports both critical thinking and deepened identity engagement. Now, let's look at our theoretical foundation. Prior studies on game-based learning have highlighted its potential to promote engagement and historical empathy through situated actions. However, few works integrate narrative design with identity, focused reflection specifically in a Chinese historical context. To address this, our research is built on two core pillars. Now let's discuss our research methodology and subjects. Our research procedure was carefully structured into three distinct stages to track the evolution of identity reconstruction. First, the pre-test stage. We utilized both questionnaires, consisting of 20 items across 4 dimensions, and semi-structured interviews. This allowed us to establish a baseline of the learner's initial historical knowledge and their existing sense of identity. Second, the game-based learning session. Participants engaged in the full RPG experience, which featured embedded narrative decision, making designed to trigger reflection. Finally, the post-test stage. We repeated the mixed method approach, using a 15-item questionnaire and follow-up the interviews to examine the changes in learners' self-perception and knowledge levels after the intervention. Regarding our participants, a total of 25 students from a large comprehensive university in China participated voluntarily. It is important to note that these students came from diverse academic backgrounds, including educational technology, psychology, computer science, and finance, and none of them majored in history. This diversity ensured that our findings on identity reconstruction were not biased by prior specialized historical expertise. Now, let's take a closer look at the actual game design. We developed an orange light role-playing game based on the historical context of the Long March. As you can see from these screenshots, players engage in narrative-driven missions where they take on involving roles, such as a Red Army soldier, messenger, or wounded civilian. On the left, you see the player's avatar, a soldier whose individual choices merge with the collective destiny of the nation. On the right, we show a critical moral dilemma where the player must choose whether to stop and rescue a wounded comrade or follow orders to keep charging. These branching choices are designed to make the historical experience personal. The game was developed strictly following the PCARD model, embedding specific problems, contexts, roles, and decision making into each scenario. This structure is intended to stimulate deep reflection and identity projection, turning passive learning into an active, embodied experience. Let's discuss our instruments for data collection and analysis. To deeply understand the psychological shifts in participants, we developed comprehensive interview outlines for both pre-test and post-test stages. These questions are categorized into 4 critical dimensions of identity and learning. Knowledge, assessing changes in the understanding of historical facts and storylines. Interest and values, evaluating the participants' daily learning habits and their perceived value of history. Self-organization and control, probing how they manage difficult tasks and teamwork, reflecting their agency. Self-perception and identity. This is the core of our study. We ask how they reflect on their own traits through the lens of the game characters. As shown in Table 1 and Table 2, the post-test interview specifically focuses on moments of regret or celebration during gameplay. These emotional triggers are analyzed to see if they remind participants of real-life experiences, thereby bridging the gap between the virtual role and their actual self-concept. Finally, let's discuss our findings. As shown in Figure 4, there was a notable compression of total scores across the 4 PR dimensions before and after gameplay. Post-test scores increased in all dimensions: knowledge, interest and valuing, regulated actions, and self-perception, suggesting substantial cognitive and affective gains. If we look at the item-level data in Figure 5, the post-test means exceeded pre-test means for every single item. We observed the greatest increases specifically in the self-perception and self-definition dimension, which directly supports our theory of identity reconstruction. In conclusion, our research shows that the participants' historical knowledge level and interest in learning history significantly improved after the game intervention. Their perception of historical value also became stronger. Participants explicitly stated that learning history through the role-playing games enhanced their immersion and made them much more eager to acquire historical knowledge in the future. To conclude the technical portion of this presentation, here is a list of the key references that informed our study. Our work relies heavily on foundation research in serious games, such as APT, as well as modern applications of the PCARD model by DeHaan and Foster and Shen. Most importantly, the projective Reflection series by Foster provided the critical lens for our analysis of identity exploration. These academic pillars allowed us to build a bridge between narrative RPG design and measurable educational outcomes in history learning. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Our study on identity reconstruction through a narrative-based RPGs is just one step toward more immersive and reflective history education. I'm eager to hear your thoughts and engage in further discussion. If you have any questions or would like to discuss potential collaborations, please feel free to reach out to me during the conference or via the Academic Experts platform. Thank you once again.